and Matt had given us some comments. Let's see. So Marathon was.
Yeah, I didn't. Did you get those late today?
Yes.
I didn't see those. I was looking for them.
So do you guys want to take? Do you guys want to take some time to review it, or do you want to table it until you get more time?
Matt, so were there any significant issues with that one, or did it look okay to you?
Well, for Marathon Solar, I think that there were a few issues of the three, or I guess the three certificates of compliance that were on the docket for tonight. This was the one that probably had the greatest number of potential issues.
Okay. All right, let's table it then, Don, until the next meeting, because I didn't get a chance to review that. And if it came late, I'm sure other members didn't get a chance as well.
Sure.
Thank you.
And 1636 is the next one.
Yep, 147 Lumber Street.
Yep. So. 1636.
So it looks like the major issues on this one, Matt, were they were a little short on some of the plantings that were approved, but otherwise it looks like the site is stable.
Yeah, this one looked pretty good, and the plantings that they seem a little short on seem to be more of like the screening plantings that were required for planning board, and not necessarily ones that the commission
Right.
pushing for in the permitting.
Right, and it looked like, based on your reporting, that they were integrating fairly well with the native plantings that are already existing out there as well.
Yeah, the replanting areas look pretty good. It was, it's getting overgrown and returning to nature, so to speak. So I thought that looked fine.
Okay.
So I think my only comment of any note, and I don't even know how much of note that is the as-built plan doesn't actually reference the PIBs. It's all fencing out there, and I know the commission typically likes to have the sort of the final plan of record to reflect that is in fact a PIB or whatever and wherever it is.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. To have that reflected.
Yep, no, I agree. That needs
Absolutely.
to be reflected on the plan. I think everyone agrees with that.
Yes.
So Don, can we just, why don't we vote on, well, let me open it up to the commission. I'm okay. They're short a few plantings. I think it was less than 10. I don't see a big issue with that for the screening. But let me open up to the commission members to see if you have any comments.
So this is Jim. I absolutely agree that it needs to be on the record plan, as-built plan, to show the PIB. And then, okay, so then the question may come up, do we approve this contingent on that? And then I guess my question is, how do we make sure that we get that, and make sure that that's the plan that gets recorded at the registry of deeds? So sometimes we'll say, let's approve it, but in contingent on getting this stuff. So
yeah, I think we can approve it subject to the submittal of a revised plan that shows the PIB, and it won't get recorded by Don until we get that.
So can we put a time? Can we put a time on that?
Yep.
Can we say within 7 days, or
usually it's 2 weeks we request. So I think that should give them adequate
10
time.
business days. 10 business days. Okay.
10 business days. Yeah. That sound good to everyone?
Yeah, through the chair.
Yep.
We're usually asking for like the 2 week thing because we normally have to issue like a decision, like a DOA or an order within 21 days. We don't have any timelines with the certificate of compliance. So if they need a little more time for the surveyor to revise his plan, it wouldn't.
Yeah, but it's not really, but they show it, it's just not labeled, or they don't show it at all.
Right. So
I'm just saying,
yeah, I mean, we just won't issue the COC until they give us the revised information. But it's not like we're under the gun,
okay.
oh, you have to do this in a hurry because we got to get this recorded. It's whenever you
Oh,
guys.
I thought it was demarcated and they just had to put some labels and legend notes, but no. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty minor adjustment to the plan. It's probably, 15 minutes worth of work at most.
Yeah, I think 2 weeks should be adequate.
Right.
Yeah, okay. All right, any other comments from the commission? If I can get a motion to approve the COC contingent upon receiving the revised as-built plan?
And Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I apologize for interrupting. Stacy Minahan with Beals and Thomas. If I could just clarify quickly on that item. We'll
Sure.
certainly revise the plans. The fence is shown, so I just want to confirm my understanding that we just need to label it as a PIB on the plans is what the commission's looking for, correct?
correct,
Okay,
correct.
thank
Yep,
you.
You're welcome. Okay, a
Stacy,
motion,
if it could read as permanent immovable barrier.
Okay,
Yeah,
Some
put that
people
in the
might not
legend, right?
know. If you just write PIB, they might not know.
Yeah, no.
we'll spell it out per the order.
Yep.
Well, you put it in the legend, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
plan should speak for
Yeah.
itself. Yeah.
It's the way we used to do it anyway.
okay, so the request for a motion,
So moved, Jim.
Jim made the motion, a second, please,
Carrie, second.
and we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
and this is Jeff, and I'm an aye. Okay,
Thank you all very much.
you're welcome. Thank you, Mrs. Minahan.
Thank you.
Okay, we're at 1 minute to quarter of 6:44, so why don't we move on to the first hearing? Mrs. Morrison, 1 Piazza Lane, a request for a determination of applicability to determine area boundaries and work. And I just need to read this before we get started. Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, August 25th, 2020 at 6:30 PM virtually online to hear all persons interested in a request for determination of applicability filed by Brian Morrison to determine whether the area depicted on the plan is an area subject to jurisdiction under the Act and whether the work is subject under the bylaw. Whether the boundaries of the resource areas depicted on the plan are accurately delineated, whether the area and the work depicted on the plan is subject to the jurisdiction of the bylaw. Location is 1 Piazza Lane, Assessors Map R11, Block 3, Lot 0. Okay, and this one's a little unique because the request is being submitted by an abutter and not the property owner. But having said that, do we have Mr. Morrison or Mr. Morrison's consultant present?
Brian Waterman from WDA Design Group. I'm present, the wetland specialist.
Hi, Mr. Waterman. Good evening.
How you doing?
Brian Morrison, also here.
Hi, Mr. Morrison. Good evening.
Evening.
Okay, would you like to give us a quick overview?
Sure. The request for determination of applicability was filed sort of triggered by the clear cutting that was underway on that lot without any kind of a wetland permit. We know there's a vernal pool on one portion of the lot. We did not directly address that in this filing because it had been previously documented in the survey plan that was done a while back. It just, as a point of reference, it should be flagged at some point so that if somebody is going to be doing further work out there, they know where the boundaries of the 125-foot buffer zone to the vernal pool are. But we focused here on the area that's shown in the drawing. There was a revised version submitted today, Jeff, if you have that handy. What we're trying to show is both the boundary of the wetlands that were located on the site and also the existence of habitat under the Natural Heritage Program that extends a considerable distance onto the site. So we're just looking for confirmation of those boundaries so that further work that will at times be done in trying to eradicate the invasive species that are out there will at least be aware that there are wetlands and habitat area on the property and presumably use hand methods rather than tractor-towed mechanized mechanisms in the sensitive areas.
Okay, so it looks like on the revised plan, it has the National Heritage boundary added. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. There's priority habitat mapped around the lake. The entire lake is mapped as priority habitat. And then there's the natural core buffer, which is not a regulatory. That's off the biomaps. It's on the other map there.
It's so large, my computer's having a hard time digesting it.
No, I'm sorry. I tried to reduce it as much as I could. It's because of the aerial picture in there. But that it does have an outer natural core buffer, which is not a regulatory, it's a guidance in dictating or guiding commissions and other boards on that there is a core habitat around the priority habitat within the reservoir itself.
And the reason we wanted to address that is this entire area, as I suspect the commission knows, is under a perpetual conservation restriction that, among other things, protects habitat areas. So we want to make sure that the habitat area gets noticed, since I don't think the grantees at this point had a clear understanding of where the habitat area is on the property.
Okay.
I know I received the email from this afternoon from Don with Matt's review, and he looked at the wetland flags. There's no wetlands on the area that you see within the tree line there with the path going through. That's what used to be called number 1 Piazza Lane. There was a house there from 1966, I believe, to 2012. But so that's the area subject to what we're looking at.
Right. That's the former kind of lawn area for the house.
Right. Yeah.
That was previously disturbed driveway. Yep. Okay.
Correct. So yes, there is a vernal pool and other things on the site, but it's quite a bit of ways. But
right.
I think the RDA was filed before we became involved. So when we went out, we looked and said, well, let's see if there anything that would trigger as far as wetlands or buffer, either on the site or within 100 or 200 feet. So we found that one little wetland finger, if you will, there, which it's very stony. The vegetation is marginal, as Matt and I both pointed out. Given the dryness of this year, it's not unusual to see additional, Canada Mayflower and Virginia creeper growing in there. That's why I put an emphasis on the hydric soil, much greater indicator of long-term saturation and hydrology. So, and again, if you follow that finger down about 30 feet, there's one of the paths that goes around the lake is there.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that it probably in a good rainstorm or a really high seasonal area, it may overtop that, and then it's connected to the other wetland. Whether it was bordering or isolated, to me, it still had the 100-foot buffer zone. So we flagged it to show the 100-foot buffer zone.
No, I think it makes sense, but the question is, if it's, I think we need to determine whether it's isolated or a BVW, because that has implications on the questions that are being asked under the request for determination, right? So whether the boundaries are depicted,
If this is
subject to the
Jim,
jurisdiction of the act.
I flagged it as bordering because there is a bit of a channel you can see, and maybe Matt can comment on this, where it gets down the path and it overtops There's actually like a washout on the other side of the path.
Right.
Yeah,
I think one of the
But again-
comments, I think one of the comments that Matt had was just a question as to whether it was BVW or isolated based on the data that was submitted. I don't think he was able to come to the conclusion or agree to the conclusion that you folks had. And Matt, I don't want to speak for you. I'll let you jump in.
Yeah, so really I think as Mr. Waterman said, it's really borderline based on vegetation. I agree there are hydric soils there. But again, the criteria that has to be met, certainly for BVW, is a predominance of wetland vegetation and evidence of hydrology. And I was really asking if there was a data plot done that would demonstrate that in fact does meet that the standard test that we use in determining when something's a BVW or not. To be honest with you, at the time when I went out there, I was under the assumption that it was flagged as an IVW to begin with, as I hadn't seen Mr. Waterman's report at that time. So I was kind of on the assumption. So I really didn't follow it down, other than I walked a little bit of the ways down, and it seemed like the vegetation was becoming more upland, not more wetland as I walked down. And I certainly didn't really see much of a channel through the area. So, to me, I think in order to make any real determination on this, I think the applicant has to provide basically a data sheet that shows that it's meeting the 50% or more wetland vegetation, or else I think there's really no jurisdiction here for the commission at all to discuss.
Hey, Jeff?
Yep.
Hi, Jeff, this is Jim. I've been trying to get my setup right here, but anyway, can I just point out, well, before any of this, Mr. Morrison has no standing to file a request for determination of applicability.
Actually, he does. Any person in the Commonwealth can file an RDA on another piece of property.
With the owner's approval and the owner's signature.
Not
So you
true.
don't have the owner's signature on the RDA. You don't have standing. You're not in a butter. You're not a direct butter. You're not an indirect butter.
Actually, I'm a
You don't own the
direct
property.
I'm a direct abutter, and you
No,
are
you're not.
incorrect.
Okay, Jim, let's
Jim,
not
you're
get
incorrect.
Jim, hold on a second. Let's not get argumentative, okay?
For the commission's sake, I think most of you know.
Only the owner of a property can file an RDA.
Jim, hold on, please. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Morrison.
For the commission's sake, I think most of you know and have worked in the past with George Hall. George was the attorney who advised me on this. George was the one who very clearly pointed out that
George is an idiot.
let's stay away from personal comments, please.
Yeah,
George is a well-respected wetlands attorney in the state, and he very clearly stated that as an abutter, I had the right under state law to file an RDA. You do not need the owner's permission to file an RDA in the state of Massachusetts. I'd be happy to sit down with Jim and show him chapter and verse on that.
okay, I don't think that's necessary, Mr. Morrison. So it's,
Yeah,
it's a unique situation, but it's not unprecedented, so it's, okay. So,
And yes, in fact, we are a direct abutter with
right,
over
no, I agree.
2,000 feet of shared property line.
No, I don't think there's any argument related to that.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so Matt, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, so I guess my only commentary on what Mr. Morrison just said, I agree with what he said. The requirement for filing an RDA on someone else's property is that you need to submit a copy of your application to the landowner and show proof that you have in fact done that.
Right.
But it doesn't need to be signed by the property owner, as it would be in a notice of intent.
Yep.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, as far as the wetland piece is really just, I think, a little bit more documentation, and if it's documented that the vegetation is there, and that there's a connection, then it's BVW, it'll be regulated under the bylaw and the act. If it's just IVW, obviously it'd be under the bylaw. although the definition of IVW is a little bit different. But if the vegetation is there, it would likely meet the criteria. But again, if it doesn't, then there's really there are no other wetlands within 100 feet or rivers within 200 feet of the area in question here. So I'm not sure what the commission would be making a determination on.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, there was another part to the description that I provided in the RDA, and that's been the flooding that occurs onto Piazza Lane from the town's property and has for years. I don't know how to address that, frankly. It is jurisdictional to the commission because it eventually flows down and into Lake Whitehall, but all of the water is coming from the town's own property using Piazza Lane as the conduit because it sort of is a short circuit through the way the water used to overland flow by a shortest path. I don't know if it makes sense to try and culvert that. I don't know what the town's position would be, or even if they want to try and address it, but it is causing siltation into Lake Whitehall. And it is jurisdictional because even though it's more than 100 feet from the lake, it is causing an impact.
Okay, and it's not a continuous,
No,
situation.
it's typically
periodic.
February to May for the most part when groundwater levels are higher from snowmelt. It's not directly related to snowmelt per se, but it appears to be eking out through the soil, pooling in an area adjacent to Piazza Lane, and then running onto Piazza Lane and streaming down Piazza Lane. There are a couple of video clips that I provided as links in the document that you can take a look at, but
Okay,
it can be a significant amount of water, and it's all going right into the lake.
okay.
And it's not directly anything we can do anything about, we the owners or the users, beneficiaries of the right of way, because we don't own the town property to be able to put a culvert in underneath Piazza Lane there.
Right, okay.
It's not really related to the RDA, but I wanted to at least have it in the record so that maybe we can have a separate conversation about it at some point.
Yeah, I was going to suggest, why don't we, since it's not really part of the RDA, what I would suggest is that, let us discuss it internally, with Lucas Environmental and Don, and, see if we can come up with, some type of solution, for mitigation there. And it's probably not something that's going to happen fairly quickly because we'll have to work through the different departments in the town as well,
Sure.
The DPW. So,
Yep.
But it's noted that it is in the record. We understand the issue, and we'll take a look at it.
In terms of the wetland area that was flagged, we walk the area a lot, obviously. And from late November through June, there's enough flow down to and across the footpath that goes across there that area gets very muddy, and people have sort of inserted stepping stones in order to be able to get through there when they're hiking.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be beneficial to have a look at it in February or March or something to better assess what the conditions going down through there are at least part of the year. As I think Brian pointed out, this is probably one of the most drought-ridden summers that we've had around here in a long time. So. Right.
Yep. No, I think that, and that was something that was in the back of my mind that I wanted to discuss with Matt, but I think that would make sense, to wait, because I think, Matt, if I remember correctly in your report, when you went out there, you didn't see any evidence of stormwater issues during your site visit, but to Mr. Morrison's point, we're in drought conditions right now, so I wouldn't expect that you would, particularly if it's periodic. And see,
Yeah, I certainly didn't see any evidence of any kind of active erosion. I mean, it looked like the Piazza Lane has had riprap put in it over the years, presumably to rectify muddy conditions.
Yeah,
But other-
that portion where most of the riprap is, first of all, it was done under a order from the commission. But what underlies that area is almost like a peat moss bog. So even when we put fairly large stones in, they settle into that over time, and the whole area is gradually sinking and sinking. And then about every 10 years, we have to either replenish it or put more stones in or something. My understanding was that in the 1950s, when the McKernans owned the property, they actually attempted to pave some areas because of that same problem. And by now, of course, the pavement has also sunk in. It's not evident anywhere. So it's been a sort of a long-standing challenge.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So, let me open it up to comments from other commission members at this point.
Mr. Chairman, this is Ed. I would like to speak for open space.
Okay, go ahead, Ed.
So speaking as the chair of open space, this is a project where the town received a grant to pay for this work from SISMA, which is let me read it out exactly so I get the title exactly right. SISMA is a cooperative invasive species management area that's on the Sudbury and Assabet and Concord rivers, of which Hopkinton is a signatory. This grant was to pay for the work to remove, and I have a list of some of the invasive species: Oriental bittersweet, multiflora rose, Japanese barberry, glossy buckthorn, and Japanese knotweed, which are all present on the property. Additionally, there are trees which are difficult to ascertain but believed to be Norway maples, which are also considered an invasive species in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
This work, to the best of my research at the time, is within the conservation restriction agreement, which really isn't pertinent to this discussion, I do not believe. It was also within the requirements of the state in terms of doing work in a buffer zone on a previously disturbed area. It also, I believe, conforms to the Hopkinton bylaw in the same respect. So all the work that was done here was done within regulations imposed by the conservation restriction, within regulations imposed by the state, and within regulations imposed by the town of Hopkinton bylaw. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could comment to that.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Morrison.
So it's arguable whether the area that has now been cleared by a mechanized tractor, whether that could have been done by hand clearing and still complied with the conservation restriction on the property. But the conservation restriction is quite specific as to the methods and mechanisms by which any kind of removal of invasives is to be done. I don't think anybody at the state, and I've spoken to the EOEA on this, they do not think that going in with a tractor-towed mechanized cutter was in any way allowable under the conservation restriction. So I don't think any of us are arguing that the invasive species don't need to be controlled. But what I'm arguing is that the invasive species should be done in a manual removal process. We've had both HALT and Open Space as the grantees under the CR say that they're willing to have volunteers do the work to manually control the invasive species, and that in their opinion, and this I'll paraphrase because it was stated at a public meeting, that they do not want to see any more use of heavy machinery going in and doing mechanized cutting anywhere in this area. So I would disagree with Mr. Harrow as to the permissibility of what was done.
Okay, and from my perspective, I would say that I would be reticent about having mechanized removal with a tractor, particularly in areas that are under the jurisdiction of the commission and in a natural heritage area. And, certainly we would want to be careful when we're working in those areas, not only in this project, but any project that's under our jurisdiction in town.
Yep.
So I understand what your concern is, and it's on the record now, so.
The other point I wanted to make, there have been several references to, quote, Norway maples. We had the Waterman Design Group do a look at all of the trees that are on the property as part of providing a restoration plan or a recommended restoration plan, which will be presented subsequently to the Open Space Committee. But there are no Norway maples present on the site. There are red maples and swamp maples, but they are absolutely not Norway maples. They're all native trees, indigenous to the area.
And if I may,
If I could expand on that a little bit.
Yep, go ahead.
Right, so like I said, we kind of came in after the filing of the RDA, but after looking at the site and discussing with Mr. Morrison about some of the clearing, whether it was, allowed, regulated, or should have been done by a machine, looking at the site with the number of invasives that are in this, the former home site, if you will, there could be Norway maples in other parts of the property. I don't know, but we were looking really just at this area that was disturbed, and it's the former home site.
Mm-hmm.
And we discussed coming up with a plan to do not only removal of invasives and invasive control, but creating enhanced habitat there for the dragonflies. There's a rare dragonfly that's listed in Hopkinton and could be in this area. There's already some good habitat there. We observed a lot of dragonflies, but I believe, as Mr. Harrell just pointed out, there is quite a bit of knotweed, the Asian bittersweet, multiflora rose. So we've developed a restoration plan. Our senior landscape architect went out aside from myself. And that plan is, you have two of them attached, which show I saw them earlier, show kind of there you go. Yep. So that was her initial landscape analysis of what's on the site. And then the next sheet after is our proposed landscape restoration, which is not only enhancing the desirable stuff that's growing there now, a lot of the grasses and forbs and the wildflowers, but increasing those components, getting rid of the invasives, and then creating, we've put in some low hedge bird habitat. So we're trying to enhance, a lot of the habitat, get rid of the invasives. There's a lot of good stuff there already, but there is quite a bit that needs to be removed and controlled. So,
Okay, got it. All right.
I know this doesn't follow, where an RDA was filed with this plan to begin with. Like I said, the RDA was filed kind of on, looking at the other portions, and then this kind of developed after we looked at the site. It sounds like everyone is on board with, let's get rid of the invasives and get the habitat back to what it should be. And as Matt pointed out, even if there is buffer zone, the vegetation maintenance and things may be exempt from the regulation anyway. If the buffer goes away, it just takes away commission jurisdiction. I'd be inclined to leave the buffer either way instead of fighting over, is that wetland isolated or bordering. It's just, like I said, it's a dry year, and you're going to get additional Canada May or things that may throw your 50% off. To me, the soil says it's a wetland. And if it's bordering or isolated, it still has a buffer zone. But I know it's kind of a weird process how this all unfolded and what's in front of you now. But I think the bottom line is we're trying to come up with a plan that allows for restoration and enhancement and removal of invasives in this particular
Got it.
microcosm of
Yep,
the entire
understood.
property.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay,
Mr.
Ed,
Chairman,
you have a comment?
Yeah, this is Jim. Can I speak?
Ed was waiting. Jim, so can we put
Yeah,
you in
that's
queue? Let Ed speak.
I'll yield the floor to Jim.
Go ahead, Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
I said I
No,
yield the
Ed,
floor
you're
to
good for
Jim.
me. I'll
Okay.
give you the balance of my time later. A couple of things. One, so I just want to confirm, your motivation of filing this RDA is not to forbid the invasive control, but it's to have it done by hand as opposed to other methods, right? Okay.
You want me to respond to that, Mr. Chairman?
Wait, hold on, Jim. Mr. Morrison didn't respond to your question.
So to your question, yes, the intent was never to say, gee, we like bittersweet and we want to keep it there. It was to develop a plan, which is one of the requirements of the conservation restriction, develop a plan for how this site would be managed, for how the invasives would be removed. And I'm suggesting through HALT and Friends of Whitehall, who are the two grantees, that there are a number of people who have indicated their willingness to volunteer for hand removal of those invasives, perhaps guided by a botanist or an expert from Waterman on site while it's being done, so that we don't have the accidents that occurred with the tractor towed heavy machinery that was in there that basically wiped out everything in its path.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Brian. I don't want to interrupt, but I do want to keep us moving. So, HALT, Friends of Whitehall, have volunteered to do all of the hand removal of invasives there. Not only now, but in the future?
That is my understanding, and it is also my understanding of. Excuse me?
Have you spoken to HALT or Friends of Whitehall and they've said to you, we will do this?
I have spoken to Friends of Whitehall who have indicated that they have volunteers that are willing to do that, of which I am one, and my wife is a second. But there are others who have said, we'd happily come down here on a weekend and work for several hours to remove invasives.
Okay, so now let me just point out something else. Your description's fantastic, but you're describing the work as if you're the owner of the property. You don't own the property. The town owns it. CR is granted to HALT. So the town Conservation Commission should be the one who's in control of and deciding what is invasive and coming away and what saplings and other things need to come out. Not you, but the Conservation Commission and our agent will decide what is removed. You know what I'm saying?
And I think all we did was we provided our own expert.
You can give them your input, give us your input, but we're the ones who are the final word on what does and doesn't come out of there.
I would subtly disagree in that I think Open Space is the owner of the property, as Don has pointed out a number of times.
Well, when I say we, I mean the
town. I mean the town is the owner of the property. Open Space has custody.
It's in their care, custody, and control.
Right.
In the
Open Space.
Jim, please don't interrupt.
I'm sorry.
Please, thank you. The Conservation Commission has jurisdiction over what's in the buffer zone and in the wetland resource area. So any work that happens outside of that is under the purview of Friends of Whitehall, HALT, and Open Space. So a lot of these questions that you're posing as to whether things are going to be hand removed, if it's under our jurisdiction, yes, then that's something that I think we support. If it's out of the commission's jurisdiction, that's between the three custodians of the project in the CR to work out. So that doesn't even have anything to do with us from the commission standpoint. We're not listed in the CR unless it's in unless it's in the buffer zone.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yes.
The we knew we were providing more information than the commission needed, but it was provided more for context of what has been done there and what at least one engineering firm and its experts recommended that could be done for restoration and vegetative removal on the site. That is not something that should concern the commission, except, as you correctly point out, inside the buffer zone.
Okay. All right. So,
May I finish, Jim?
briefly, Jim, go ahead.
I'll be brief. That's exactly what I agree with you, except that the order of, it's open space first as the owner of the town, co-owner of the town, and then it's HALT as the CR grantee. Friends of Whitehall, they're not involved in the CR. So
Actually, you're
it's
incorrect.
ultimately
again, Jim.
open space that needs to work it out with HALT.
No, HALT and Friends of Whitehall are both co-holders as grantees.
That's correct, Jim. I read the CR today.
All right, great.
That's
I
an
stand
accurate statement. Okay.
I sit corrected.
Okay. Do we have comments from any other members of the commission?
Mr. Chairman,
Ed, yes, briefly, please.
so reading the CR under retained rights of open space, item number 9, invasive species. The right to remove invasive or non-native plant species, the right to control poison ivy, poison oak, and other potentially hurtful plant life and species that threaten indigenous species anywhere within the premises, so long as surrounding vegetation is not substantially disturbed. There's nothing in this conservation restriction anywhere which gets into how it has to be done, and I submit that if this was a job that could have been reasonably done by hand, there would have been people out there this summer making process on this 23,000 roughly square feet, which is rapidly becoming overgrown with invasives before. As I said, this was a grant funded and sponsored by SISMA. I have their program. They submit that this is not a reasonable thing to do by hand. There's too much stuff around the perimeters and some of the sensitive areas, absolutely. And the gentleman who was actually doing the work, and it was not a towed device, it was an attached device to the tractor, so it's not bearing on the land per se, commented on areas where he said, I can't go in there. So there is an acknowledgement of this, there's an awareness of this, and to prohibit the use of mechanized equipment to basically mow half an acre of all kinds of stuff is, in my opinion, rather silly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I
All right,
respond?
we have the, no, I think we're good, Mr. Morrison. We've,
Okay. There are other sections of the conservation restriction that talk to the need for having a plan for what's to be done before it's done.
okay, yeah.
I'll be happy to get you the references.
We have
to
that, yeah, we have that on the record already.
And I have the plan.
Okay. All right, thank you. So do we have comments from any other members of the commission? Okay, do we have any comments from members of the audience? And if you want to raise your hand, I'll just scroll through. Okay, it doesn't look like it. Okay, so we have a little bit more data that we need to collect regarding the vegetation in the wetlands. So I think we need to continue this out. A little bit more work needs to be done per Matt's memo. And our next meeting date is September 3rd, I believe. Don, is that correct?
15th, September 15th?
15th, sorry. I'm thinking October 3rd, the 15th. So presumably that'll give you enough time to,
Yeah, I'll get out and take a real good look at everything and get something back to Matt and Don.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just ask for whatever the next meeting is after that. That happens to be the day that I'm having surgery, and I don't think I would be back and able to participate in the hearing at that point.
Okay, so it'll be October 6th then, Mr. Morrison.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment?
Yes, can I just get your name and address for the record, please?
Yes. Nancy Peters, 258 Wood Street,
Oh, hi, Mrs.
Woodville. Hello. And as you know, I'm a longtime resident, and I have walked this property for years and years and years. My question is, I would like a definition of clear cut. I hear that a lot, especially in regard to people taking trees down for solar and so on and so forth. And to my knowledge, this was not clear cut if we're discussing trees. I think we were more discussing vines and shrubs rather than trees. So
Well,
do you
there
have
were
a
a number-
definition for clear cut?
Do you have that definition?
Yeah, I think that's the word that was used. I think,
It was.
yeah, and I think it's somewhat subjective, you know, it doesn't mean that, in my mind, at least from my perspective, you know, I understand that there was work done that could have been done, you know, particularly or in the sensitive areas within the buffer zone in the National Heritage Area, that probably should have been done by hand or manual removal as opposed to, you know, bringing mechanized equipment in. I think that's the point that we're making. You know, the clear cutting, I get your point. You know, I don't think
An
anyone,
emotional comment.
I don't think anyone is,
Can I,
May I make another comment?
go ahead.
The other comment is that HALT and the Friends of Whitehall, their situation, their status has not changed since they were granted that status. And at no time, to my knowledge, was there any effort by either of those groups to remediate the invasive species. When this land was first purchased, I commented many times that the area that was cleared of shrubs and invasives was at the time a meadow, and I wanted it to remain that way. The efforts that have been taking place have been to return it to a meadow, and I don't think it was clear cut of trees. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of points I would like to add to that.
Sure.
There were mature lilacs and other shrubs that had been plantings that had been installed by the shepherds that were heritage plants that were mown over in the course of the clearing that was done. There were a number of smaller shrubs, plantings that had been put in place by the shepherds. Those have been cut to ground level. Some of them will grow back. When I had a site walk with the rest of the Open Space Committee, we talked about volunteer effort for taking care of the invasives. There were several people who said they were ready to start right then. The chairman asked that we wait until the commission had this hearing and there was some further discussion with Open Space. But if the word from from the chairman of Open Space is that it is okay for invasives to be removed by hand by volunteers, we'll happily get started on that effort. It's not a lack of desire or a lack of interest. It's a lack of permission at this point.
Okay. I think as a first step, we need to decide, determine, what the commission's jurisdiction is, because of course that's the area where we will have input on, how and what's removed from that particular area. I suspect that some of these other areas that we're discussing are probably outside the commission's jurisdiction. And again, just, as I previously mentioned, it'll be up to Friends of Whitehall, the Open Space Preservation Commission, and HALT to negotiate and, work out, what's removed, how it's removed, what's allowed to be left in place, you know, that type of stuff. So, okay, I think we got it. All right, so we will continue this out to October 6th. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your comments.
Through the chair,
Yes,
Thank you,
Don.
Chairman, Don, everybody. Good night.
Thank
could you have an email forwarded asking, you know, in writing to continue the hearing to October 6th, please? For the record?
So, Mr. Morrison, can you just send that to Don?
Certainly.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay. So we had a few folks join during that last hearing. I just want to let everyone who's in attendance now from the public know that the Abbott Realty Trust hearing has been continued to October 6th, and the DeWolf 28 Lumber Street Resource Area Delineation has been continued to September 15th. We're not going to be discussing either of those projects tonight. Okay. So 5 Whisper Way, this is a continuation of a notice of intent for a single-family home. And Mr. Nation, I believe, is on the line. We have Mr. Nation or Mr. Nation's consultant. Hello?
Hi, there we go. I didn't know if I could unmute myself.
Okay,
I just did.
okay, good. Good evening.
All right, do you want me to speak yet, or?
Absolutely, go ahead. Why don't you give us an update?
I'll dive right in. Where we left off last time was that I would come back with an explanation of how much of the buffer zone is being altered by these 2 lots in relationship to the entire 12-lot residential development. I had the engineer calculate the extent of alteration in the buffer zone, and I attached the photographs. And if you take a look at this lot here, I highlighted the area that's being restored. This currently exists a driveway, and in the photographs you saw that it is open dirt, gravel, soil. And the back of the house that's existing is about 2/3 of the way into the buffer zone currently. So the area that is being restored is between that house and the wetland. And the proposed house and proposed driveway, as you can see, has been moved back. The driveway is coming in outside the buffer zone. And the conservation commissioner mentioned that they were concerned about the steepness of the slope. So some rock was added, some stones added to that section of the slope.
Got it. On the back of the house there?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So the totals are in the chart, and they're also in my notes, my narrative that I submitted.
Yes, very good. Okay, and then from a subdivision perspective, if you can just refresh my mind. So originally there were 20 lots proposed, and that was reduced to 12.
24. Yeah, there were initially 24 lots.
And then what was the acreage that was set aside to open space for mitigation?
Craig or Chris? I'm not sure the answer to that. Mr. Nation, maybe?
Yeah, I didn't see.
It was on before.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
Am I on?
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, it's Chris Nation. I don't have a specific number for that question. I thought we were past that question at this point.
Well, we are. I'm just making the point that as part of the entire subdivision, there was mitigation proposed.
This that file like 1625 or something like that. I don't think it's had a file number.
Okay. I'm trying to recall. I think it was 30 something acres. Right.
Yeah, the previous order of conditions was 188, 1665.
Right.
Okay.
For the subdivision?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Matt, did you have any comments on this?
No, I'm all set.
Looks pretty straightforward. Comments from members of the commission? No comments from any audience members? Okay. Before we vote on this one, why don't we move on to 3 Whisper Way? Mr. Pinto, and you can just give us an overview on that one.
Yes, the plan shows the 100-foot buffer zone, the vernal pool buffer zone, and the 50-foot buffer zone. There is no work within the vernal pool buffer zone or the 50-foot. There is some grading for both the septic system and the land surrounding the house that is between the 100-foot buffer and the 125-foot vernal pool buffer, which is also the limit of work line. So no work is taking place in there. So the amount of work within that buffer zone is in my report. Quick here. Is 2,680 square feet. And we tried to play around with that septic system and the person designing the Title V system, and it kept resulting in required filling. Just trying to move it around, and that's not the lot. It's the other one.
So it would have resulted in more disturbance if I remember your report.
Yeah, it's much or more disturbance.
All right. Okay.
And they would have had to start playing around with elevations. So
Okay. All right.
that's a summary.
Okay, and these are the only 2 lots in the subdivision where we'll have buffer zone impacts. That's correct?
That's correct. So that's the limit.
Okay. Matt, did you have any comments on this parcel?
So,
Okay, thank you. Comments questions from the commission? Comments, questions from the audience? Okay, I think we're ready for a vote. So this is 5 Whisper Way, 188-1708. If I can get a motion to close and approve the notice of intent with our standard conditions.
So moved.
So Ted made the motion. Jim, you're going to second?
Yes.
And we will do the roll call. Melissa?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Neen?
Aye.
Ted?
aye.
And Jeff's an aye. Okay. And we'll move on to 3 Whisper Way. If I can get a motion to close and approve the notice of intent with our standard conditions.
So moved.
Jim made the motion.
Heads.
Second.
Ted second. And we'll do the roll call again. Melissa?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Neen?
Aye.
Ted?
Aye.
And Jeff's an aye. Okay, I think we're all set, Mr. Pinto.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye now.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the Wolf has been continued. We have Magunko, 97 Franklin Road. This is a continuation of a notice of intent for a single-family home.
Mr. Chairman, this is Joyce Hastings from GLM Engineering.
Hi, Mrs. Hastings. Good evening.
May I share my screen?
You may.
Are you able to see my,
We can see it.
so after the last meeting, we've made some revisions that were requested in the hearing. We've labeled the bounds permanent immovable barriers, and we revised the detail for the bounds to show that they are exposed 2 feet and have a plaque that would be placed upon them.
Okay.
The driveway was moved outside the 100-foot buffer zone in this area here. It was shifted over about between 15 and 20 feet.
Okay,
So that
great.
it's outside the 100-foot buffer zone.
Okay.
And those were the three comments that you had raised at the last hearing.
Right. Yep. Okay. All right. Matt, any comments?
No, I'm all set.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set. Comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Chairman, this is Ed.
Yes, go ahead, Ed.
As I recollect, in the last meeting, we talked about having to have the driveway do an arc. It is still straight, and it's hard for me to see in this map, but it looks like a portion of the driveway is still, I believe, in the 100-foot buffer, and I thought it was supposed to kind of curve around and be totally outside of that.
So the driveway itself in this area here is outside the 100. We arced it around. Here's the 100-foot buffer zone right here. The entrance to the garage, as you can see, because the house is right up against the setback line for the zoning setback, and we have a minimum depth for a 2-car garage. This portion right here is still in only because we need room to back out of the garage. We did put a turnaround here so that they can get out of it, but in order to back out of the garage, that's why this little area is here. But everything else was bent around outside the 200.
So we're getting a little bit of when you're pointing it out, Miss Hastings,
Right here.
there's a little bit of a lag where you're pointing, so it was kind of hard to follow you there.
Oh, I'm sorry. So this is the area right here.
Yeah, yeah. So that little section right there is in the 100-foot buffer zone,
Correct.
just for the turnaround.
Okay, I'm happy. I swear, when the picture was smaller, it looked like the buffer zone was smack in the middle of the driveway, and the driveway was straight. You can blame my old eyes.
Yep,
I saw it too, Ed.
I think that was the old version. I saw it too, but I think it was the older one.
Oh, you mean it's not my old eyes? There's
No.
still hope?
yeah, because the other driveway was the old version that was straight. This is the one that's curved. You can see it's shifted farther to the east.
Yes, this I'm happy with.
Yeah.
Through the chair,
Yes, Don.
I had my screen up too, so I wasn't quite sure. Is Joyce able to show the old plan? So
Well, maybe it was your plan that we were looking at then, Don.
yeah, I was getting confused.
Yeah, so this is the new plan that Miss Hastings has on the screen.
And is she able to show, because I was trying to compare the two, the May plan to the August plan. Is she able to bring up the May plan? So,
Yeah, let me, give me just a moment and let me see.
or do you want me to,
If you have them already up, why don't I stop sharing?
I do. I guess if you can close out, and then I'll go into share mine. Are you folks able to see this plan?
Yes.
All right, this was the May plan, and then this is the revised plan.
No, that's not the revised plan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that one still has most of the driveway in the buffer zone.
This was revised 810?
You're looking for the 811 revision.
Oh, was that submitted to us?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got it here.
on the
Yeah,
website.
sorry about that. So this is the 811 I'm bringing up now.
Right, yeah.
So if I close out the 10, and just show
The
you.
one that's in color, you can see it, it's a little bit clearer, but you can still see it on that one as well.
Right. I just closed the color one because that was the 810. So this was the 514. I mean, this is the one we talked about at the last meeting, right?
Right.
That is correct.
Right. So, and then this is the revision.
Correct.
Okay, I'm fine with that. That little section, I'm not going to lose too much sleep over. Okay. So any other comments, questions from commission members? Comments or questions from audience members? And feel free to speak up. I don't see any hands raised. Okay, great. If I can get a motion to close and approve the notice of intent with our standard conditions.
I'll make the motion.
Melissa made the motion. A second, please.
Second.
Carrie seconded, and we will do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Neen,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hastings.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much. Good night.
Have a good evening. All right. Anyone know the score of the Bruins game?
Who are the Bruins?
1-0.
Bruins?
Oh no! 1-1.
1-1? Oh my God. All right.
You jinxed it.
Shouldn't have opened my mouth. All right. Okay, Don. So I think we were on,
I think we're going to go do marathon school, the COC for 1607.
yes. Yeah. Right.
Let me just open up the draft for 1607, and then I'll go back to Matt's comments. These as well came in today, so I don't know if you guys have had a chance to see Matt's comments as well.
Yeah, I took a look at it. Looks like it's pretty straightforward, Matt. There was nothing significant that jumped out, right?
Yeah, it was pretty much similar to the last one as far as having the PIBs shown on the as-built plan was a bit of a deficiency.
Yeah.
Um,
Removal of the erosion control measures.
Yep. But it was appeared to be in pretty good shape.
Okay. All right, so I think we can vote on this, Don, similar to what we did previously where, they submit a revised plan indicating the PIB.
Okay.
Let me just, I think that was,
Trying to find Matt's comments. I don't think I
oh,
downloaded them.
the annual reports we haven't gotten. We need to request those for the stormwater.
Correct. We haven't received that as well. Here are Matt's comments down here. Marathon School. I just didn't get them into the folder for tonight's meeting.
So, I think we can approve the COC subject to getting the reports that are due submitted and the revised plan identifying the PIB. That makes sense to everyone?
Yeah. That's the Jim.
Okay. All right. If I can get a motion to issue the COC subject to the submittal of the revised plan and the stormwater management reports that are overdue.
Janine, I'll make the motion.
So Janine made the
I'll give
motion.
it second.
Jim second. We'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Neen,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
and Jeff's an aye. All right. Okay. So new applications received. Mr. Petrosi submitted a ARAD request for 0 Old Town Road. We have draft minutes for June 23rd, 2020. Did everyone get a chance to look at those?
Yes, I have a correction. On the solar, it says it was a unanimous vote. I voted no. It's at 1:31 on the tape.
Oop, sorry about that. We'll make that adjustment.
Good catch, Janine.
This is Jim. I have a question also. So that was the meeting where I fell off of the call and was unable to get back. Does the minutes show, and admittedly I didn't review them, do the minutes show that I left the meeting at some point? So I never voted on it.
They did note that you left.
Okay, great,
Yeah,
thanks.
yeah.
Okay,
We noted you were disconnected during this hearing.
all right, cool, thanks. Again, I didn't review them yet. Thank you.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes subject to Janine's correction?
I'll make the motion.
So moved. No, I can't do that. Never mind.
So Janine made the motion, second.
Ed, second.
Ted, second. We'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Jim.
I guess I abstained
All
for the
right,
reason that I wasn't here for the balance of the meeting.
Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
and Jeff's and I. All right. You all set, Don, to move along?
Yeah, just
All right.
noting, I gotta make that correction.
Yep,
All right,
that's why I'm just giving you a few minutes here.
sorry about that. Let's see what we got on next.
Letty, 31 Stony Brook Road, a project change request.
Right, we had looked at a series of trees at the last meeting.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
I was able to go out and take a look, and basically of the trees I saw, yeah, let me get my photos. So, unsound trees and I'm in the wrong. Sorry, I'm in Stagecoach. Sorry about that. I gotta get 619. There it is, 1619. Project changes, trees. So when I was out there looking at the trees, I saw 9 of them as unsound. There was a lot of insect damage. Even the tree that came down had carpenter ants all throughout. And then when I walked through, basically all the there was a lot of rotten and carpenter ants in the tree that came down. And then when you go looking through all these trees that are marked with an additional blue had signs of either exit, insect holes. So you had carpenter ants throughout here. And of the, what it came down to is I just saw 3 live trees. So you got one right here that was pretty much at the edge of the limit of work. And with the canopy, it probably came down into the limit of work. So he had concerns about this live tree because it was next to the one that came down. And then a second one here was the largest canopy tree. It's surrounded by a lot of smaller trees, and this one was tending to catch a lot of the wind. Now that all these trees out, in the work area are gone, so he concerns about that one. And then the third one here was the proximity to the driveway in the corner of the house. So he was hoping to that would be this tree right here. So he was hoping to see if he could remove just out of he wasn't looking to clear cut all these trees. It just those 3 specific ones and replace them with something smaller that would stay in the understory as a project change request under the order.
And I think the one that's kind of set back into the woods, the two right there along the, that close to the limit of work,
Right.
I think I'm okay with. The one that's set back, 15 or 20 feet into the woods.
Yeah, it was, I guess this isn't the greatest picture. I should have stepped back, but the crown of this is well above the other one. So he was noticing in the wind, and when I was out there, it was windy too. I could see his point where he was concerned. Yeah, but I did mention, I go, it is further back, away from the limit of work. So this wouldn't have got impacted from any of the work here, where the other two trees are close to the line. Yeah, this one is set back, but he was just nervous about how much wind it was catching.
I mean, if it was a pine tree, I would agree, Don, but I mean, it's a hardwood, so it has a deep root structure.
Right.
So, I mean, it may sway back and forth quite a bit in the wind, but I don't think unless there's no disturbance around the base of it, right? It's in the woods.
No, these are the three. Yeah, his consultant and we couldn't see any issues with these three specific trees.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to allow all of them except for that one in the back. I mean, I think that's.
Jeff, this is Jim. Can I say something?
Sure.
So, Don, is that tree, if you look up at that tree, should it be pruned to take away some of the branches prone to fall off? I have a lot of experience, unfortunately, with limbs coming down from 30, 40, 50 feet up in the air and crushing things like vehicles. So you look up and you got a limb, that limb's going to come down in a good storm. The trunk may stay there, but the limb can come down. So the point is that I'm okay with them cutting that additional tree. And I also might point out, we just sort of allowed 28 acres of trees to be cut down on another project. So what's one tree for somebody's protection? Right.
And to that point, there was one of the trees, it lost a large section here. You can see the branches right down there. You had a lot of that ripped out of the trunk itself. So it's a compromised tree. So yeah, we go back to the homeowner and say,
I'm good with them removing all of them, Don. They're gonna replace them with something smaller, right?
Yeah, but I'm not saying remove the whole thing, Jeff. I'm saying, can it be pruned? And if you get a hardwood tree guy or gal, then they'll tell you how to prune it. They'll know how to prune it so that it's healthy, or it just can't be pruned. I'm not saying take the whole thing out. I'm just wondering if pruning it properly is an option. And there is a difference between folks that take down softwoods and hardwoods. Softwood people just take the whole trait. Hardwood people prune it and try to keep it healthy. So either way, I don't care.
Through the chair?
Yep, go ahead, Matt.
Just one thought on this, and this really applies to any of these tree removal projects. I think my recommendation would be on these, if there's a large forested area behind that these trees can be dropped into, my recommendation would be to drop those in there and actually leave them on the side as opposed to having them craned out and run through a chipper. For a couple reasons. One is if they are full of ants and things, that's just tremendous wildlife habitat that can be on the forest floor. And secondly, leaving the large trees from a perspective of carbon sequestration is quite valuable as well. So it potentially saves the homeowner money by just dropping them into the wooded area where if they were, about to fall anyways, and that's what we're led to believe based on the insect damage, that they would fall, and that would be their normal sort of next stage of life would be, on the forest floor. So those are my 2 cents.
That makes sense, I think.
Great point, Matt.
Yep.
Through the chair?
Yeah, Don, go ahead.
Yeah, those are pretty much the standard conditions, when we're doing with these things. We're looking at 3 things: the safety of the property owner, the safety of the individuals doing the tree work, and doing it in an environmentally sensitive manner as possible.
Right.
And I don't believe they're proposing craning anything out here. So it would be, cutting and dropping and lowering, and we would expect for the unsound trees, to be brought down. And then if you guys were amenable with the the other tree, yeah, we could reach out to the homeowner, this one that's further back, would they be amenable to pruning to get some of that weight out? Or if they were gonna cut it down, we would only cut it to a height where it wouldn't, you'd have a woodpecker pole or, a wildlife snag that if it did fall, it wouldn't hit the lawn area, so you'd still have a remaining, if you said, okay, we're okay with moving the tree, the live tree, we'd still have them leave a snag of it, and then all the other stuff that's cut, hopefully just leave it on the forest floor to decompose.
Okay. All right, so I would just say, ask for that one tree that's in the back, ask, when the tree guy comes in, ask him if it's reasonable to prune it. If the tree guy says, look at, no, I don't think it's reasonable, then I think it's okay to just, as you say, drop it halfway down, leave, half of it there for the woodpeckers or, so give them the option. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Sure. I just want to add something. If you, you can pollard the tree as you're describing, but then you're going to have suckers. So at some point it's going to need to be pruned to sort of, it's not, that's how it's right. So then at some point it may need to be pruned so the suckers come out. So I think it's a great idea because somebody's going to maintain it just so they know.
Okay, so if I can get a motion to approve the project change request.
So move.
Jim, Ted's a second, and we'll go through the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ed,
I hate these. All right.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted, aye.
and Jeff's and I. Okay. Thank you. So Highland Park, a request for a 6th extension of the order of conditions. This is Stony Brook. So they just haven't completed the work done. They need another 3-year extension.
Right, and we asked for them to give us an update on the status of the project. So we knew some of the outstanding issues was the 2018 and 19 annual stormwater reports. We just received them.
Okay.
I had a chance to look through them. The other thing was the status of the vernal pool application. They gave us the response from Natural Heritage. It was from 2017. The Natural Heritage did certify the 2 vernal pools, so that information is now on record.
Okay, good.
And the third point was in regards to the wetland replication area, and I just got an email response from him today. Not sure if I've even got that in his. But basically, he was commenting he needed more time to work on the wetland replication area, and they wanted to do it this fall.
Okay, and he's requesting a 2-year extension, so I don't see a problem with that. Does everyone go with it? If I can get a motion to approve the extension of 2 years for the order of conditions for prime properties, please.
Janine, so moved.
Janine made the motion in a second.
Yeah, I'll
Second.
second. Jim. Somebody.
Jim, okay, we'll do the roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and Jeff's and I. All right. The emergency certification for the fuel oil spill at 5 Woody Island Road, which needs to be ratified by the commission. So they sent us an email today, Don, just kind of summarizing.
They did.
Looks like everything is under control.
Right.
Yeah,
Because I issued this back in mid-October, and they just emailed us today with a status update, which I think I called out in the order. Shall be apprised of any changes to the response activities. So they're in keeping with the emergency certificate by keeping us up to date on the progress of the remediation of the spill.
Okay, good. So if I can get a motion to ratify the emergency certification issued for the site?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
can I ask a question?
may.
I'm a little confused. Don made a reference to October, so is this something from last year?
No, I'm sorry. Did I say October? I meant to say August, mid-August.
Okay, so this is the one that was recently in the police log.
Yeah, it just happened a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so Ed, Ted's making the motion. A second, please.
I'll second.
Ed made the second. And Melissa,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Neen,
Aye.
Ted. Ted still with us?
I thought I said.
Oh, you said aye. Okay, sorry. And Jeff's an aye. All right, I apologize. So Estella, 95 Saddle Hill Road, we have an exemption request.
So the applicant is concerned with 3 pine trees as identified on his sketch plan right here. And they're right at the limit of the lawn, the red tag. You've got one here, one here. You got 1, 2. Yep, right there and there
Okay.
and there.
Yep, one of them seems to be leaning in towards the property, the one in the back.
Yeah. So you got branches pretty much over a portion of the house.
Okay. I think I'm all right with that. Is everyone in agreement? Any questions, comments? It looks like a Woods Ferry shed there. It's pretty nice.
And they're proposing to replace.
Okay, good. All right, I think we're all set, Don. We don't need to vote on this.
Nope.
This is an exemption
Nope.
request.
All right.
So the next one is Manchester 210 West Main Street.
Yes.
Same thing, tree removal.
Right in front of the house, correct. It's a 4-trunked tree. Manchester, there we go.
4 trunks. You don't see that very often.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. So here's my photos of up close because they also were able to give us the far back ones. So. You're looking at the junction of all these 4 trunks.
That
And,
is bizarre.
yeah. So, and it's
Oh, look
right
at that.
here. It's about 80 feet from the lake.
Looks like a piece of broccoli.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm good with that. It's definitely at risk of one of those splitting off and during a high wind or something.
Yeah.
So any questions or comments from the commission?
Yeah, if it was mine, I'd get a tree guy and wire them together, but
Okay, I think we're good on that one, Don. Camacho, 9 Stagecoach Way.
Yes.
Was that an oak or the 4-trunked one, Don? Was that oak or?
Yeah. Those were oaks. Having trouble with there we go. Couldn't get my,
Many are dead and some pose a threat to the kids and or property.
and I got some site photos. Just trying to open them up. So this sketch plan I didn't think really lined up well with what I was seeing. So basically, they were noting, so you've got, I can zoom in a little.
All those trees that are circled, they want to get rid of?
Yeah, a lot of these are obviously outside the commission's jurisdiction. You're looking at the buffer zone through here. You got
driveway.
Yeah, you got 2 culverts right through here, and basically most of the trees are located in between here. We've got I had two live ones here, and they've got some of the trees on the other side of the culvert, but they're all pretty much right in through here. So basically, I can see my label. Come on, tell me. These are the live trees. So basically, as you're going up the driveway, you have the 2 right here in the landscape bed that are, I think the big concern is how they're going over, they're going over the driveway. Had another one here in the landscape bed going over the driveway. You had one here that's really reaching for the light over the driveway, and it's basically right at the stream channel, and it's growing on top of this exposed ledge here. You've got 2 live trees here that are growing into this section of ledge as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're live and healthy, but you might want to consider those to be kind of structurally unsound, how they're,
The ones in the ledge, definitely. I mean,
Right,
the ones
right
that are
through here.
kind of overhanging the driveway, can those get pruned? I mean, they look like healthy trees.
yeah, so that would be the crux. And then the dead ones that I can address, I mean, that's structure and sound. You get a dead tree here.
Yeah,
And then
the dead
this
ones
one
are
is
fine.
heavily, this one's heavily
Diseased.
rotted as well.
Yeah.
So basically all the live trees are, within the 2 culvert area.
Yeah, the diseased, ones are fine. The ones that are kind of growing out of the ledge, I think are fine, because the root system's at risk there. The 2 that seem healthy, I mean, I would just recommend to the homeowner that they just trim the branches above the driveway, prune it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. I was waiting for a spot so if we could see those first 2 again.
Yeah, that one right there. I mean, those look pretty healthy
Yeah.
to me. Did you look at them, Don, or?
It did. It was an oak and a maple, and yeah, they're growing very close to each other. They're basically co-joined at the base, but I didn't see any, insect damage or anything like that. But yeah, basically they are, reaching over the driveway. So I think that's their concern. It keeps dropping branches on the driveway.
So it looks like the majority of the top of the tree there is over the driveway, so you really can't prune.
Right.
All right, and are they proposing to plant trees in place of the ones they're removing?
I just asked them that, and they haven't responded to me. They did respond, but it was more talking about the dead trees. So,
all right, I would tell them that I would tell them, Don, it's okay that we just want replacements put in.
Okay.
New trees.
Yeah, so subject to replacement.
Yeah.
Through the chair, I don't want to slow anything down. I am fine with those first 2 trees staying. To create a world where there are no branches over driveways seems like a silly proposition to me. So for the minutes or whatever, I'm against removing those trees, the first couple that Don showed us.
And I will follow suit with Ted.
And I'll keep my mouth shut.
Right there, I'm fine with those staying.
Okay.
They are fairly close to the driveway where most of the upper canopy is over the driveway.
Yeah, I just feel like it's not going to crush a house. The cars don't park there. If we cleared all the trees that covered pavement, we might not have any trees left.
Right.
I agree. This is Janine.
You
Were
agree?
those part of the planting plan? I mean, that looked like a specifically landscaped area, unless those were just
Yeah.
poor choices.
Yeah, there were natives left
They
behind.
worked around those trees back in
Okay.
the old order of conditions for the driveway work.
Did we require them to keep those?
We basically they came in with the planting plan, so they put in a lot of the shrubs, and at the
And
time,
those existing were there?
this property owner is not the property owner that proposed the
Yeah,
driveway, you know?
right.
So it's a new property owner that's come along and is concerned with some of the specific trees close to the driveway. The ones
So are those trees,
dying and the ones that are so big, those are their ones that are concerned.
were those shown on the planting plan as existing to remain? I can't really tell from the.
Yeah, I wouldn't, I think not. I think that this was just sort of a rough to say, this is where we're gonna put in the, the plants. You know, I don't think they're shown, well, there are, and I don't know if this is an icon for existing trees. Sometimes it's easier to grab the hard copy.
Don, I would, Janine, Ed, and Ted want the trees to stay. I mean, I agree. They're over the driveway. They're not over a house. And my inclination is they look healthy. We should just leave them. If a branch falls in the driveway, they need to get a chainsaw out and remove it. So
Will anybody hear it?
So in essence, yeah, so the applicant would either have to prune the tree or file an application to remove the tree, correct?
Well, I think we just ask them to leave it, prune it. Yeah, leave it, and give them the option. If they want to prune it, they can.
But if they want to cut it down, they need to file an application with the commission.
Yeah. If they're adamant about it. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Sound good to everyone?
Yes.
So it's just those two trees on the left-hand side
Yes. Yeah.
that are remaining, and then the other ones on this side?
The other ones we're good with, I think.
Stones and stuff, I'm fine with removing.
Okay.
I'm biting my tongue.
All right. We good, Don?
Yeah, I'll close those down. Yep.
All right, and this is the owner's request to donate 0 Lumber Street to the town. The vote to accept the deed was made by the selectmen.
I believe so. Yep. And now the selectmen were getting back to the commission's original request to accept the land because it abutted other town-owned open space land.
Yep. So that's just an FYI, right?
Yep.
We don't need to act on it.
Right.
Jeff, may I ask a question?
You may, Jim. Go ahead.
So, did we say that we would accept this land, or did I say something like open space should be the ones? Oh, I know what we did.
We talked about it and.
Yeah, no, I got it. We said sure, and then if there's sometime down the road, it can be changed. I got it. I remember.
It's already been written up. The selectmen reviewed it.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Okay.
I forgot that part.
Okay, so the work session items, or excuse me, the public forum items.
Do we need a vote on that, or are they okay just to approve it?
I think we already voted on it, didn't we?
No,
we don't need to vote.
Hold, let me just go back. Let me just see the wording of the request.
I thought it was just an FYI, Don.
Well, I guess I didn't download the email we got from the, hold on a sec. Let me just see what the deed reads. So we don't have to sign it, right? Find the original deed, yeah. I thought Elaine said if you guys wanted to take a vote.
Okay, well, it doesn't hurt to take the vote, so, if I can get a motion to accept the, owner's donation to the town,
Ted,
Rural Lumber Street with the, Conservation Commission as custodian.
Ted, so moved.
Ted made the motion in a second.
Janine, I'll second.
Dean second, and Melissa,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
and Jeff's and I. All right.
Yes, thank you, because I noticed on the agenda, it said vote to accept deed. So I think I was getting that from the town manager's office.
Okay. Good catch there, Anna. Thank you.
And we got some comments. We had the electronic signature issue at the registry of deeds, reached out to town council, gave us an opinion on how to process that.
Yeah, so we, if I can jump in, Don. So Rebecca, so what we can do is we can make a motion to have Don sign off on the documents for us, so we don't have to go to the some documents. So we don't have to go down to the town hall to do it. So let me just read to you Rebecca's statement here. It says, I'm attaching information from the Registers of Deeds Association regarding electronic signatures. As set forth in the document, there is a specific procedure that the Concom must follow, and electronic signatures can't be used for registered land. However, for registered land, the Concom can delegate signature authority to Don, which makes things easier. I've drafted motion language and certificates of vote for other towns to do both of these things. Authorize the electronic signatures and delegate signature authority. So I will revise them for Hopkinton and send them over to you. So Rebecca did that. So there's two motions we have to make. So I'll read the first one and then we can vote on it. And again, this allows Don, if it's just the order of conditions and the COCs, right?
That get recorded,
for
like any extensions, because RDAs don't get recorded.
Right. Okay.
But ANRADs, and ANRADs don't either.
But even though she's saying that, the registry rejected it in the past, so.
Because it wasn't, because we have to record it. We
have to record these motions that Dawn can.
Right, yeah. So these motions, if we vote on them and agree to them, then those have to be recorded in that second document. I don't have it in front of me, Don, but this one, Connor Deegan has to sign off on, and that gets recorded. Can you?
Yeah, town clerk has to.
Can you scroll down?
Yep.
I thought it was attached to this.
Well, and then we got this one. I'll be honest, I haven't had a chance to look at this stuff.
Yeah, that right there. So that's the one that has to be recorded.
Okay.
This right here. So we make the motions. It's recorded in this document. And then this gets signed by Don. It has our votes, and then it gets recorded with the registry. And then once that's in place, then we can do it.
Jeff, this is Jim.
Yeah.
I have a question. What did you just say? Don signs it as our. So Don would sign it as Don McAdam for, Hopkinton Conservation Commission, or for each one of us.
Or,
Specifically. He can't just sign it without having some authorization shown there, you know what I mean?
right, so this would be the authorization for him to sign on our behalf. And I think,
What?
Don,
When he signs it though,
yeah, I'm not sure if he signs our name or if he signs it in that.
Right.
he should sign his name, FOR, the Hopkinton Conservation Commission, or FOR, each one of us. I would say he can do it for just the commission. Just say Don McAdam signed for FOR, the Hopkinton Conservation Commission.
Yeah, but then you don't know who voted which way on the.
But see where that
Why don't we table this to the
Well,
next?
that's just a ministerial act, the signing. It doesn't really.
Yeah, we always sign it regardless of our votes anyway.
Yeah, normally you need at least 4 John Hancocks on any, document.
That's just because that's a quorum. That's a majority.
Right.
So I'm just saying, you sign your name for the commission on the thing that you sign, on whatever the document is.
I
That
guess,
shows that you have the authority to do that for the commission.
on behalf of the commission.
Correct.
When so directed by vote. Yeah.
Or you would sign your name for, and then list each one of us. But it would be easier to say the commission.
Yeah, I think he has to put each, well, it's not really.
Each name?
Don, let's table this to the next meeting so we can just.
Yeah, we can check with.
Yeah, I
we
want
can
to make
check with,
sure we get this is understood before we just vote and sign it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Because I want to make sure we do it properly.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, we don't have a meeting for a while, so could we vote that either or, he's authorized to sign for us or for the commission, and then it gets ironed out in the next few days of which one it is? Because I'm fine either way, if he's signing as me, a commission member, or if he's signing as the commission.
Let's see.
Yeah, I guess we could do that and just clarify with Rebecca how you sign it, Don, right?
Yeah, and do we have any, all we'll be dealing with right tonight is, the 2 orders and the extension permit, right?
Yeah.
The 3 orders.
But we
Yeah.
can,
I don't know.
so Rebecca has the motions written out for us here, so we can vote on them, approve them, and then get clarification from her after the fact, whether you sign once on behalf of all commission members, or if you have to sign for each, if you sign our signature for us, you know what I mean?
Yeah, normally I would print out your name and then I put my initials,
Exactly.
Sign it.
That's exactly right,
That's what
Don.
we need, that's what we need to clarify with Rebecca, what's the appropriate way to do that. But I think we can
Yeah.
still vote on it and we can figure, we can work that out later. All right, so let me just read, if I can get a motion that the Hopkinton Conservation Commission authorizes Conservation Administrator Don McAdam to physically sign on behalf of the commission when so directed by vote of the commission documents issued by the commission under the Wetlands Protection Act, GL, Chapter 131, Section 40, or the Hopkinton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, including but not limited to orders of conditions and certificates of compliance. So is there a motion, please?
I'll make that motion. Zed.
Ed, and a second.
Second.
Ted is a second, and Melissa.
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Jim,
All right.
Ed,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye.
And Ted is,
And Ted's an aye. Yeah. Okay, and the second motion is that the Hopkinton Conservation Commission recognizes and accepts the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 110G, regarding electronic signatures for permitting and compliance documents, and that its members will henceforth execute such documents either with electronic signatures or with wet ink signatures, and that both will carry the same legal weight and effect. The statement applies to permitting and compliance documents issued by the Commission under the Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, or the Hopkinton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, including but not limited to orders of conditions and certificates of compliance. So if I have a motion for that, please.
Mr. Chairman, question.
Yes.
Is there a sunset provision on these?
There's no sunset, but it has, it
end of code.
specifies that it's either electronic or with wet ink signatures, so either one. So once we go back to, you know, our normal meetings where we get together, a wet ink signature would carry the same effect as Don's, you know, signing for us. So it's either or. So there's not a specific sunset on it, Ed.
Okay.
So motion, please,
Janine, I'll make the motion.
and a second.
Carrie, I'll second.
Carrie, second. All right, Melissa,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
and Jeff's and I. Okay. It's getting late. Everyone's quiet. I get it. All right, so we had one more.
Actually,
More item, Don?
we got two more.
More?
Town council for forest cutting plan, and then a request in regards to the reorg for the trail coordination.
Yeah, I saw the forest cutting plan come in a couple hours ago. I didn't read through it. Did you, Don?
No, not really. It was just enough for me to get it downloaded.
Yeah, I read it, but I was surprised. From my understanding, it basically said that we can supersede a forest cutting plan if it's in our jurisdiction.
I don't know if it said that. It said
Right.
they wanted them to submit an RDA for the commission's review.
In any, okay, so hold on a second.
Yeah,
Commission has
question.
power in an order of conditions to include a condition prohibiting forestry activities in a certain area if the commission deems it necessary to ensure that the project does not have unacceptable negative impacts on wetland functions and values. So we didn't include a condition to that effect.
No, we didn't.
We didn't. Okay, so similarly, an applicant may propose to leave a forested area untouched or carry out restoration of a forested area as mitigation for wetland impacts. So that, I think, is implied when we had our limit of work, right? And I think in the order, it said that there wouldn't be any disturbance outside of the limit of work.
No disturb area.
The no, right, yeah. The no disturb area. Sorry, yeah. So that was implied, I think. In any of these cases, if the stated condition is made a permanent condition in the order of conditions in the certificate of compliance, that condition supersedes
The forest cutting.
the WPA exemption, the forest cutting, right?
But I guess my question going back is, if you look at why you guys do PIBs and it's spelled out in the regs, is over time you started getting lawn creep, you started getting, development in beyond the limit of work.
Right.
And so you guys would say, well, we don't want it disturbed as being altered from, once it was a forest and now it's a solar panel or a sports court or, an area for animals, some sort of conversion. And to me, the question was, well, it's still going to be a forest. It's just going to be harvested forest, but the smaller trees are still going to get big. So is that, yeah, and I think that's what, and then she's getting to the point where for you guys to be able to hash that out, do you have to, I was kind of surprised, that she thinks the property owner should submit a request so the commission can decide whether the order condition prohibits the proposed cutting. Because it's really not,
Well,
I don't think the order spelled out exactly like, no, you can't, do forestry in here.
well, it was bullet 47 in the order of conditions, right, Don?
I can pull
You
it
have
up.
that handy to bring it up?
I do, yeah, because we have,
Sorry to hold
the
everyone up.
certificate of compliance application was on the docket. I got the whole file.
Jeff, I got a question.
Yeah.
I didn't look for this answer, but is this land Chapter 61 land?
It doesn't matter if it.
It does. It does matter.
I don't think.
No, because he filed a forest cutting plan.
Well, I understand, but there's a difference between submitting a forest cutting plan on chapter land versus just submitting a forest cutting plan on non-chapter land.
Yeah, that's not under our purview. That's under the state's purview. We're not the regulatory.
No, the only reason I bring that up is as to what supersedes what. Does our order supersede a forest cutting plan on 61 land is different than our order of conditions superseding a forest cutting plan on, non-chapter land.
It
Well,
says that the
It has
state
to do with the exemptions listed under the act and the bylaw, and it just talks about forest cutting plans as an example. It doesn't get into the taxation of being in chapter 61.
Well, it's going to do with taxation. It's whether it's forested land or not forested land.
Right. So yeah. So if you're going to go in and start cutting trees without an approved forest cutting plan, then you're doing that without the exemption under the act and the bylaw. Hence, the commission would zoom in and do an enforcement proceedings because you didn't get a forest cutting plan approved by the state. Hence, you didn't get the exemption given you under the act and the bylaw.
Yeah. Okay.
Don, are you bringing that order?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
I can't talk and look at things at the same time. I'm sorry.
Man, what the heck?
Let's see.
Use that third arm to use your mouth.
So here's the order that got recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
You have 4 arms, right, Don? Not 2?
Yeah.
We need to,
You're looking for the order, the condition? Let's see. I would think the PIB would be near the end, so.
Gosh.
Yeah, here we go. So there's the permanent barrier, permanent area, no disturbance. The maintenance of the approved. And then it talked about, the wildlife meadow habitat area. Could be maintained as a wildflower meadow habitat. Yeah.
Number 78 there that we were focused on?
Well, that's kind of standard condition as well.
All right, so okay. The proposed chain link fence as shown on the approved site plans shall act as a permanent immovable barrier constituting the boundary of a permanent area of no disturbance. The maintenance of the approved vegetated wildflower meadow habitat area shall be allowed up to the approval limit of work identified on the approved site plans for the extent of the operation of the solar facility. This condition is ongoing and does not end upon completion of the project or issuance of a certificate of compliance. Shall act as a permanent immovable barrier constituting the boundary of a permanent area of no disturbance. I think that's the sentence right there. Permanent area of no, so I think that would supersede, as Rebecca states, the forest cutting plan, Don. I mean, that's kind of how I read it.
Jim agrees.
Melissa, Carey, what's your thoughts?
The only caveat would be if we have a definition for disturbance.
What I was sort of getting at.
Carey?
I was saying I agree. It sounds like it supersedes.
Okay, thanks. I mean, what I would suggest on, Ted, what's your thoughts there?
I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know any of this, but my only worry is because the forestry law seems to be able to overrule some of what we do, if we don't specifically say you can't do anything, including doing forestry work, I fear that we may be in trouble. But I'm a high school history teacher. I'm not an environmental lawyer. I sure hope this means that we can say stop cutting trees in the area that we've talked about and that you've signed and agreed to. I just worry about the specificity. But that
Unless it's specifically included, that is, thou can do this, and I think it's everything that's excluded, anything that's not mentioned specifically is subject to the terms of this.
I'm just not sure if the lawyer letter says that.
Well,
it does say, she says right there, an applicant may propose to leave a forested area untouched. In putting a permanent immovable barrier for no disturbance seems to be the same as leaving a forested area untouched.
But if you finish that sentence, and again, I'm hoping that we can say stop cutting trees, but if you finish the sentence, they can propose that as mitigation. Is it clear that that's why they agreed to that? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And the second or says, include a condition prohibiting forestry activities. We didn't do that specifically. We said you can't do anything. Hopefully that means it includes forestry, but I fear it means you have to specifically mention forestry because apparently they can overrule some stuff that we decide.
And
I mean, I think it would be crazy if you have to list out every single thing that you're not allowed to do.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be ridiculous.
You wouldn't be not practical.
I agree it seems crazy, except this is a specific instance where the state says this is one use of land, which we're talking about.
It's to address an exemption that is within the act and the bylaw that we've never come up against before.
And I don't think we anticipated it here either. I'm not an attorney, but I played one for 25 years, and I think that it does not have to specify. If it's not specified, then it's excluded.
Janine, we haven't heard.
It's like I'm kind of getting stuck on the part where a commission has the power in the OOC to include a condition prohibiting the forestry, but we didn't specifically say we prohibit forestry. So
right.
We said
I don't know. I think that's the sticking point.
We said no disturbance.
Yeah.
Beyond the PID.
And is harvesting trees in a forest and leaving the forest to remain an alteration?
Yes. Oh, seriously?
Yeah, I think it's a disturbance, yeah.
Absolutely. It's an alteration, it's a disturbance, it's any other word for not leaving it in its natural state.
But it's still going to be a forest.
It's going to be less of a forest.
I think it goes back to this the whole PIB isn't. And
this is why
I'm just trying to read what the regs.
I know.
The history.
That's why I asked if it was 61 land, because if it's in 61 as forest land, then you have a right to develop a forest cutting plan. if it's not in 61, it's, the forest around my house. I don't have a right to go and thin things out because I feel like thinning it out.
So,
Really, you
Mr.
do.
Well, you
Mr.
get an
Chairman,
exemption. You get an exemption under the
But I
state
don't
law,
have a-
town's bylaw if you file the FCP.
Don,
Yes,
so Don.
An exemption, but what I'm saying is I can't do it by right.
When we submitted this to Rebecca, Don, did you submit the order of conditions so she had
Yeah,
that?
I gave her links to the whole forest cutting plan file and 1636. But she was on vacation, and yeah, this is a rush job. These were the initial comments, because you guys did this on January 28th, and when I put in the legal request, Norman was out, Elaine was out. It went in a black hole. So when the next meeting came up, I go, I haven't heard boo. And then you guys said, check on it. And they're like, yeah, we don't know what you're talking about. Can you send it again? And then when I sent it again, Rebecca was on vacation.
Yeah, okay.
So,
I think, Don, we need to go back to Rebecca. I mean, I know Mr. Churko has patiently been waiting for us to get a resolution on this, but I don't think she answered our question. It's, if you go back, it's it's typical lawyer, language, but I think, I don't feel comfortable making a decision without more input from her. That's my sense. Melissa, Carrie, do you agree, disagree?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful for her to weigh in on, if our intention was, if we consider, the forestry plan disturbance, and that's why we create these PIBs, if that's our intention,
right.
Is that, enough weight, or do we need specific language?
Yeah, and I think to your point, Melissa, and I think Ted also echoed this, is to identify every activity that we feel would qualify under disturbance.
We can't do that.
It would be just unreasonable to do that and impractical,
Right. If you look at a lot of the things that we were looking at tonight about people requesting to take trees out in, the buffer, and, we're analyzing those and considering those, substantial enough to deny or talk about in a meeting, then I would think that a forestry plan is even more invasive than somebody wanting to take a couple trees down along their driveway.
Right. I think that's the point. You're saying, yeah, you can't list everything under the sun, but there's an exemption that you should probably address.
Jeff,
Like
may I ask
you're
a
saying
question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So my question is, the purpose of the request is to cut mature trees, harvest the trees, right? He wants to harvest the trees.
Correct.
Okay, so you can't do that by hand. So clearly you're going to have skidders in there. You're going to have all kinds of equipment. I don't know that that's anything but a disturbance. That is a disturbance. So he wants to harvest it, not to, help the health of the forest. So you're going to have to use equipment to do that. That's a disturbance, a lot of disturbance.
But then the small trees that are remaining now have the sunlight to become big trees again.
Oh, I understand that. And 50 years from now, God willing, I'm still going to be here, but 50 years from now, they'll be the same size.
Right. But, okay.
Yeah, Ted, go ahead.
I agree that I don't think we got an answer from town council, but I also agree that we don't want to keep the applicant or the property owner just sitting there. I wonder if we should follow with the advice of that last paragraph and encourage a request, an RDA, while we try to get more information from town council.
Sounds good to Jim.
Yeah, we could suggest that, Don, and then if we get if we get a definitive, something definitive from town council, you could just withdraw the RDA, right?
I guess so. Or
That does. It makes
something more, yeah, it looks like you guys would be asking more detailed questions of town council in regards to what that means, your order of conditions, your condition number, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be defensible, and, because if we're telling the property owner that he can't go in there and do it, we need to make sure that we have a legal standing behind that.
And I guess it just, yeah, and I guess, because this has been closed, so I think, to reopen the can of worms, I think that's what she's saying here. The only way you guys can discuss what that meant is through here, because that's a closed matter. It's already been recorded, I guess that's what she's trying to get to here, because she's saying that wasn't here, and this is not settled. What did you guys mean by that? And I don't
This is
think
Jim again. We didn't anticipate this. We had no way of anticipating that this was going to happen. So therefore, any work that's on the subject property that the application was for has to comply with this. And I think what she's saying, and what I would say is that this overrules. We can decide based on the order of conditions, not specifically allowing this activity they're proposing. Since it is disturbance, we can deny the application that he submitted to do the work he wants to do because it's a disturbance. It's subject to the order of conditions. And it was not specifically allowed in the order of conditions.
she's getting for the specific
So it
proposal.
seems to me that we
issue.
can issue a denial if we want.
Okay.
Through the chair,
Yes, Matt.
just one thought on this that you might want to keep in mind. I don't know if it doesn't sound necessarily as though the reasoning behind wanting to clear the trees was directly related to the solar use of the property, but it seems like over time, all these solar projects that have come into town, these forests are going to grow up and they're potentially going to start impacting the solar capacity based on shading. And I think this may be a fairly important issue to make sure you get it right, because others may come back and say, oh, well, they said we couldn't cut any trees, but if we can come up with a forestry plan, we're going to harvest these trees under the guise of harvesting when they're really just trying to remove shading. So I think it's an important thing to get right.
Yeah, that's
Excellent point, Matt.
That's a really good point, Matt. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, one other little point here. There's two kinds of forestry plans. There's a long-term plan and there's a make a buck today plan. And this is of the latter sort if you look at his application. This is not about long-term maintenance of the forest.
Right. That is a huge difference. You're not managing the forest by doing this.
All right, let's get some more feedback from Rebecca on this, Matt, or Don, excuse me.
Yep.
She did say in her letter, her preliminary analysis, I think is how she stated it, or her initial analysis.
Then when it boils down to the specific proposal at issue, that was her answer.
So should we follow the advice and ask for an RDA then as well, while we go back to her and ask for more clarification?
That was a good suggestion.
Yeah.
So Jeff,
We could offer that to the property owner, give that as an option if he wants to do that.
Yeah, then maybe if he does submit an RDA, it'll clarify what he wants to do within the area that we're looking at. Maybe we become comfortable with it if it has certain parameters.
If we can condition it somehow. You're saying, Melissa?
A downside to request an RDA. It tells the property owner that we are working on this and we're giving him some marching orders to help us out, and it gives us a little time to go back and talk to town council with more specific information.
All right, so why don't we suggest to Mr. Churko then, Don, that, we're still hashing this out with town council. We haven't gotten a definitive answer that we're comfortable with. An option that he has two options. One is to wait until we get that opinion, or if he wants to, submit the RDA.
As they request, yeah, as they suggested.
As they suggested, then, he can do that too. That's option B.
Right.
Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And to me, it seems like, yeah, I mean, at some point you'd need a vehicle to figure out like what she's saying here, What did you guys mean by the prohibited cutting, It's like, that decision's already been made. It's almost like, well, you'd have to have a new forum to entertain that,
Right.
But then it's like, I don't know if he can, and if he doesn't submit the RDA, you could still, I think under the bylaw, it talks about if there's new information that comes, you guys can reopen the NOI hearing, So if he doesn't file the RDA, you can say, well, wait a minute, there's a new forest cutting plan. We want to hash that out. So to me, I think it would be that route too, if he doesn't do the RDA. Because then if you're still kicking the can with her about what it means, it's still going to boil down to what does the majority of the commission think on that condition.
So I think it's either going to be an RDA, or Rebecca's going to come back with an opinion that yes, with the order conditions, I think with the order of conditions,
Eyes.
sorry, I'm losing my track of mind.
Right.
It'll either be the RDA, or she'll come back with an opinion that our order of conditions precludes any kind of disturbance or alteration of the existing of the forest that's beyond the PIB.
We can ask her that, but I don't think she's going to give it to you. I think she's going to say the commission needs to decide whether the order of conditions prohibits the cutting.
Well, can't we just take if that's what she says, wouldn't we be able to just take a vote on it?
Yes.
Reopening the hearing?
I don't think outside. No, I not in a forum like this at a work session. I think you need to.
You mean you want to open a hearing for it?
We'd have to do it through the.
You'd have to, because this was already decided. You guys made votes, and now you want to go in and reanalyze what you voted.
Yeah,
So
I think,
the only way you'd have to do it is either reopen the NOI and screw. I don't know what the language is under the act. I'd have to read all that.
I don't think we want to do that, though. It would have to be the cleanest way to do it would be through the RDA.
Yeah,
So I think that's what we should suggest.
You'd have a public forum because you had all those neighbors too.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
So,
Yeah, so I think we should suggest to Mr. Churko that we go the RDA route then.
right.
I think that's the way we have to do it because, right, because the abutters are going to need to be notified, right?
Yeah. So the whole due process,
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right.
But I mean, you can hear from her and see what she has to say. I'm just reading between the tea leaves here, thinking
she's not going to give us.
She's not going to tell you guys. You guys are going to have to make the decision what it was.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Okay. All right. So what was the last item?
Jim let us know that Jamie Ronk is interested in doing, so if you guys want to make a recommendation to the select board to have her reappointed.
All right.
Do you need a motion, Jeff?
Yeah.
Typically.
Yeah.
So
take a motion to have Jamie, to propose Jamie as our Trail Coordination and Management Committee liaison.
I'll make that motion that Jamie Ronka can continue as our representative or liaison.
Okay. And a
TMC.
second. Second, please.
Second.
All right. And roll call, Melissa,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Jim,
All right,
Ed,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. Okay, and a motion to adjourn the meeting and watch the Bruins. So Melissa made the
I'll make
motion.
that motion.
All right, in a second. Carrie made the second, and Melissa,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
and Jeff's an aye. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Oh, wait a minute, before you go, I have a question.
Yep.
I want to know who here has actually skated with a Boston Bruin.
I met one, but I didn't skate with him.
I've never skated with any of them. No.
I skated with an Olympic gold medalist.
Ed,
Oh.
you did, right? Ed did.
I did.
Yep, see?
With who?
Bertie Flamin.
Oh, nice.
I was about 5 years old.
Excellent.
Wow.
He's from
That
Canada.
was when they were called like the Boston Senators.
No.
That's why they didn't wear helmets and anything back then.
Right.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Good night.
See
Good
ya.
night.
Thank you.
See ya.